Now, one of the things that I'm asked about often is, what are we doing about social media? What is the social media thing? How do we go about doing it? So I imagine that you're getting similar questions, and so how are you helping your clients sort out those issues?
Well, one thing we do is we simplify it. People tend to blow social media up into this big thing, and they make it very complex and very complicated, and so they don't do it because once we have something that's this big monster, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to eat a bite of the elephant, right? So the first thing we try to do is we try to simplify it for them, and it really comes down to two fundamental things: figure out what your customers want and where they are. Talk about those things on the channels where they are. It's really that simple. So what we do is we go out and we help them find out what their customers care about. What is it that keeps them awake at night? Not relevant to you, but generically. What do they care about? Well, if I know that, I have gold. Let's say I can come up with and this is what we do for our clients, I can come up with the 5 top things my customers want to hear. And I know that they're in 3 channels. They're in Facebook, they're in LinkedIn, and they're in YouTube. Well, now a social calendar is drop dead simple because I just come up with a matrix: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Now I can create these posts, and you can repurpose the content. So your blog post can be chopped up into Facebook post. Your YouTube video can be chopped up into Facebook content and tweets if they're on Twitter. And now it becomes very simple. You create 3 months worth of content, you post it, and then you rotate it again. If companies can get that kind of a simple roadmap, it changes the game.
You do something which I think is really, really important, and that is, rather than us trying to understand what the customers need all the time, I have to give the credit to the customers for knowing what they need too.
That's right.
So what do you do on that case?
What we do is we ask them, what are the top things, what are your top priorities? We give them a list of maybe 12 to 15 things we think are their top priorities, and we give them 4 categories, and we get them, so we want the things that are either the highest priority or high but not highest, and we simply rank order those things. Top 5 things are the top 5 things we want to talk about in social media. In a survey.
Yeah, so you
very, very simple.
Do you do regular surveys, or do you do a point source survey and that lasts you for a while? Or?
We do regular surveys because those topics are dynamic, just as their businesses are dynamic. So at least once a year, we want to be having that conversation and finding out what their key things are right now. Because if the market changes, those interests and concerns are going to change. And so we need to keep our finger on the pulse of that. And that helps us keep the conversation fresh and relevant.
So the takeaways are that as you're developing a mechanism to communicate with your customers using the social media vehicles or channels, you have to have the relevant topics.
Yes.
And so some of those will be ones that are abundantly clear to you, and you have lots of input that will tell you what those are. But some of the most valuable items will be suggested by the customers themselves.
Right.
And then getting some kind of organized format around those so that you start it, you keep it going, it happens on a regular basis, and people can rely on getting new information, helps develop a better relationship by providing some value to the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what happens then is that your conversation's better than your competitor's conversation because it's oriented around what you know the customers want.
Yeah, and that's very important because there are companies that haven't really decided to do this yet.
Oh yeah.
And there are companies that have. And if you're a company that hasn't got there, then you're putting your customer base at risk.
Absolutely.
Because your competitors are in there and they're part of a daily conversation with your customers, and eventually they'll leave and go to the competitors where they basically have this electronic relationship.
That's right.